All right. Good morning. We are now live streaming on the YouTubes. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to April 19th, Tuesday morning. We've got a weird display on the screen right now because Michael's on vacation. We brought in Kyle Davis from our support team, and we're just trying to talk about spring and seeing what's going on. How's it going this morning, Michael?
It's going great. There's some nice weather out here and enjoying the morning sunrise. Get to actually see it from the outside this time, and hopefully my mic stays through the entire time. If it decides to die, I'll probably depart then, but we're bringing it live from the good old Castle Hot Springs out in Arizona.
Nice. Never been there, so
Me
that's
neither.
pretty cool to get a new location here. Then, of course, we've got Kyle Davis, our ATG MVP and support star extraordinaire. I believe that's what fits on your business card these days. How's it going this morning, Kyle?
Going well. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to joining here and talking with y'all what we have.
Yeah, so we've had Kyle on a couple times before, and usually when you see him on here, it means that we're going to talk about stuff that's a little bit more technical in nature, because he is the one that usually is first on the scene when it comes to support issues, when it comes to Bluebeam. So here at ATG, we are a Bluebeam Platinum partner. So our clients that get their software from us get access to our support, which means they get access to Kyle. And Kyle is a Bluebeam certified support rep, just as Michael and I are, but we don't do that every day. So, we all interact with the software in different ways. And you've heard us talk recently about some of the end of life stuff, the older programs getting phased out. And this has brought in a lot more conversations about, what do I do? How do I update? What version am I on? What version do I need? There's all this panic. Do I go to CAD or Extreme or stay on standard? And everybody's kind of flipping out. Maybe that's a little drastic, but there is some of that going on. So what we wanted to talk about today is deployments and how do you plan for these things? If you didn't see the end of life thing, if you are on 19 or older, those days are winding down. You have less than a year now to use that software because you will lose some functionality. So there's a bigger look at going to 20, making sure all of your licenses are up to speed and on maintenance. So we wanted to talk about the IT side of things and what does that mean to deploy that. So let's start very simply. Kyle, what does it mean to deploy something?
So basically, deployment is the term that they use when you want to kind of batch get something out to all the users in masses instead of it being a one-off thing. You just go to this install and go to this computer and install the software. Instead, you create a deployment, and then you can use multiple other kind of softwares that help with that deployment. Then you can get that pushed to your users, and they don't really have to do anything. You just let that deployment run, and you're good to go.
And that's the magic part, right? Because there's still a lot of folks that are thinking, well, I can't possibly do these updates because I got to work after hours and I got to go around to everybody's computers and then run the updates. That's simply not necessary with the Bluebeam Review suite, because you can create these deployments and standardize them and make it so everybody's using the same tool sets, the same settings, and all the things that we've talked about previously here, and getting it out to everybody. But it's easier said than done, but it's really not that scary. Is it scary? I don't know. I've done one MSI package as part of my certification, but I've never done it on a real computer. But you help our customers with that type of stuff, don't you?
Yeah, we get support cases. We also get support cases. We get service things that we can provide documents and help links to help you get that out.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what if somebody had an issue with their deployment, what can ATG do to help them deploy a proper new Bluebeam install with all preferences?
Yeah, so we could definitely look into settings and configurations that might be off. So if there is, for some reason, you're trying to push out something and a setting is just off in the deployment, we can look at the log files and see if there is any culprits. Then we could troubleshoot like standard stuff of, are you logging in as an admin? Is the service being run as an admin, or are they limited permissions? Any antiviruses that are causing the deployment to fail? We can look into those. And we can provide at least the steps to look into it. If it starts to get outside the Bluebeam thing, if it's the antivirus or permission stuff, that's going to be more on the company's IT, but we can assist them in providing that details.
Great. So that's always good to know that if you are doing a deployment, you are creating a deployment package, which we'll cover today in depth. If there is any bumps along the way, we can help you to the full capacity of maybe checking the log files, making sure that we have the correct settings, right? Or preferences downloaded, the packages locating and pointing to the right MSI locations. But we're not going to actually launch it for you. We're not going to deploy it through another MSI deployment style, but we will help you to the full capacity of going through and checking your log files and maybe helping you walk through what you want to bring over and deploy with your new installs, things like that.
So we talk about log files, or I've heard about log files in, Autodesk software and then some of this other stuff. What all is actually hiding in that file? Why are they so important?
So log files are very important in the regards of, it kind of goes into a step-by-step of what the install is doing. So it goes in there and it will start putting in line items of, I'm running this routine. I am trying to attempt to install this MSI. I'm doing this, this, and this. So it kind of gives us a step-by-step of what is going on within that install. And it will then give us particular error codes if there is an issue that pops up. Or if it succeeded, it will actually say successful. Or it will tell us each step that was successful. So, hey, we got this installed, but we failed to push out this. It doesn't full out tell us every single time why it might have happened, but it gives us at least a code that we can then start looking into to troubleshoot that particular one.
Excellent. So we've talked about, creating these MSIs. We've talked about the preferences and stuff. Isn't there a utility that Bluebeam provides that makes this all easier?
Correct. There is a Bluebeam deployment package that you can utilize for pushing updates and also to install the full software in general.
And
yeah,
this is probably where we should screen share and show this.
Yeah. Do you want me to go through and do that?
If you can,
Kyle.
We'll see what your hotel Wi-Fi can do.
Well, okay, everybody. So let's go through and talk about our deployment package. And do you want to run through it? Actually, you know what? Let's have Kyle, just because if my mic dies, Kyle will already have it up.
There we go.
But it is just an install. You create a folder for it. I have my folder under deployments as well. So just depending on how you name it, I'll have Kyle share his screen here in a second, but you just keep everything here. And I'll put in the link into the area of where you can go and download these things as well.
Michael sounds really relaxed because he's at some fancy resort and he doesn't want to be talking about work business stuff on the patio.
Well, hold on. That, and it's supposed to be a quiet, and even the password to the Wi-Fi says, "Are you sure you want to?" ?
Oh, and it's 6:30 in the morning there, so there's that too.
That too, yeah.
All right. So this is Kyle sharing.
Yes. So
right,
got my my screen here, and I'm showing there is a link that we can get out to everyone. I'm gonna put it actually in the chat here. And basically, this is the Bluebeam Revu 20 deployment guide. And there is the other versions listed here, but again, as the end of life scenario, we're going to be mainly focusing on the 20. And then there's the download the package. So here it has the latest one already. So you get to choose whether it's a 64 or 32. I still like that they have this option. However, probably about 99% of the computers are going to be 64-bit nowadays. There's rarely is any 32 bits still out there. However, it's still there. And it downloads this file, these packages here that you can then extract this. So when I downloaded this, it's just a zip file. And then when you extract it, you get all these files in here. And it comes with all the configurations, and there's the OCRs and these. And basically what we're going to want is to run this Bluebeam Revu configuration editor. And this is where you can get started with creating deployments, patch a deployment, or deploy extensions or check licenses. So this is nice in the regards of when you say check license, this is where you can come in here and check what your license is. So if you know your serial number, your product key, and your primary contact of the license, you can get this and it will actually tell you where it's installed, who has that, and what version they were. So you can get this information.
Anybody can use that at any time, really?
Correct. Yep. As long as you know those three information. Which the primary contact, that's one on the support side, we don't know. So if you're like contacting us, say, hey, what's our information or what computers? We need to know your license information and who the primary contact is, and then we can look it up and assist here.
Question from Chris: can it revoke a license? I think you still need enterprise for that.
Correct. That's always been a big question, is can you revoke a license? And currently that's only available to enterprise licensing. The perpetual licenses, it's not an option right now. You can see who has it, but you cannot revoke it at this time.
Interesting.
And there's another part in there. Correct me if I'm wrong, Kyle. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
That talks about the open licensing structure and how you can set read-only in those items as well down in that same deployment area. So if you are using a open licensing structure for Bluebeam Revu, there is a deployment area that speaks to how you would want to deploy as read-only. That way it's not pulling the license immediately when you open Revu. So be sure to check that area out as well.
Correct. Yeah. So what he's going to be referring to is when I come in here to this deployment, I'm going to create a new one, and then it asks for a couple things like, hey, okay, where's the MSI? And it's this MSI over here. And then where's the deployment folder where you want to put it? So I'm going to path to this MSI. And then I'm going to put in a deployment folder.
And if you guys missed something that Kyle clicks through really quick, like we
sorry.
just saw him find his MSI package.
Yep. So basically I just browsed to, that MSI, and now I'm browsing to the deployment folder. I used to have one, but I don't have it anymore. So I'm just going to say Revu 20 for this. So this is basically, I'm going to be putting this like on a server location or something like that to say, hey, this is where the deployment lives. And then here is using a configuration from an existing deployment. So you had one before, but then you want to make another one that is different. So you can use the configuration, but modify it to make two of them or multiple so that you can control which ones people get.
So maybe that would be used for if some people were getting standard and some people were getting extreme.
Correct. Yep. That's exactly it. You can come in there and say, hey, these people are going to get standard, so I'm going to make a deployment for standard. These are going to get CAD. These are going to get extreme. But I can use the same configuration that everyone gets the same thing. It's just different licensing. Which one is in use? And then move on to the next step. And then this is where you get to put in the serial number and product key, or you have an option to just go ahead and say use trial. So this is an option of saying, hey, don't put in serial number information, just say trial, and then they can, run it or put in the serial number afterward.
So here's a question from Chris. Can you prevent people from installing this on multiple PCs?
Preventing them from installing on a multiple PCs, that would be in the regards of if they have the serial number and product key information, technically no. You would not be able to do that. Unless if it's on your company's PCs, then yes, you can do that in the regards of administrators and preventing admin rights and stuff like that, so they can't install it. So you can do that. But if it's on a home computer or something like that, there's no way to prevent it. But if you don't provide them the serial number and product key, they won't be able to register it. They can install it, just not register. So some companies, again, that's why the deployment is beneficial, because then when you deploy it out, the user may know the serial number, but they don't know the product key.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And the other way to prevent people from installing on an existing one and keep using that same serial number product key would be an enterprise license structure, because when you revoke, it bans that IP address.
Correct. Yep. So just for the demonstration here, I'm just going to say use trial because I don't want to put in the serial number and product keys here. So I'm just going to go say next. Got a guest speaker you're going to bring over, Michael?
Yeah, people walking by waving at me. Yeah, throw the hand up. Hey, how you doing?
Yep. And then right here, this is the settings of the portion here, and then the delayed if I can say the word, authentication. If you have this on, basically what that means is it's not going to activate the license right away. Instead, it's going to wait until you launch the software and then you click activate, and then it will take the license. If this is unchecked, if you turn it off, basically that means it's going to activate as soon as it's installed. So even if that computer just sat there for a month, it's activated. So it's taking a license. So this is a good way to prevent that and just say, go ahead and install it on the computers, but then wait till it's used. And then set as the default PDF viewer. So you get that, get the other PDF writers out of the way, make this the review the default. And the next one, in-app updates. This one's huge. For clients that don't want their users to install updates, you can uncheck this, and basically it'll install this, but then when an update is released, no one will get notified that the update is available. So there will be a dialog box pops up and says, hey, I'm available. Do you want to download? If you turn this off, that dialog box doesn't pop up. It's now on IT to push it out when the update's available.
And that's if they have active maintenance. So,
correct. If they have active maintenance, yes.
So this came up a couple of weeks ago when we talked about the release of 20.2.70. So the latest update that popped up, some people weren't notified, and this is probably why. That when it was installed, this was taken off there. And there's pros and cons to it, of course. There was an update over a year ago that caused a little bit of issue, and Bluebeam had to quickly release another fix for that. Those types of things could be, allow the IT folks to research that update prior to rolling it out to everybody. So sometimes that is beneficial.
Yeah, I've seen on the support side, I've seen it quite a bit that, when I call the client, I'm like, hey, where I see you're out of date, and things like that. And they come back and say, well, our IT hasn't tested it out yet and approved it. Mm-hmm. So it's very much in that case. So I did see a question about if you uncheck this or this gets turned off, is there a way of turning it back on? The answer is yes. However, it is embedded in the Windows registry. So you actually have to go into Regedit. Now, it'd be funny if I have this right away in here. I know that one time I was in here, I opened this up and it was right to the Bluebeam one because I just did it. So it is not. So I got to find it here. So I believe it's under H key current user. And then we have down here software, Bluebeam software. And I want to say it's under one of these.
Dark, scary place. I don't like being in there at all.
Agree. It's definitely one that I highly recommend only IT professionals that know the Windows registry to come in here. So it may not be under current user. Let me see if it's under local machine. There it is. So under H key local machine, software, Bluebeam software, and then the version, and then review, you have disable in-app updates. And then here you can change it to 1 or 0. 0 means that you will get notification there's an update. 1 means that you will not get a a notification that there's an update. So you just come in here and you turn that to 1. And if you're wanting to deploy this, you can take this and you can export that registry key, and then you can deploy that to your users, and then it will update their registry key as well. So.
Interesting.
All right.
Now you're at enable welcome page, which is actually really beneficial if you haven't taken a look at it. Well, if your deployment didn't include that welcome page, you don't even know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So actually, go ahead.
Yeah, the other thing is most folks, and this is something that I think it was Doug that has it, where his company has an open PDF, right? So instead of opening to the welcome page, which is great, does have a lot of info. But if your company is going to be opening up to default a PDF that has a bunch of information, like kind of like a dashboard scenario, you may not want this. You may want to open it with a preference setting, so then everyone's computer opens up to that defaulted PDF.
Yeah. And there is some settings that in the deployment we could set for things like that in the preferences and stuff. So when we're talking about here with that for the enable welcome page, basically this is it. So when they open up Revu, they're going to get this right here, and then there's the video about the features, and then you have like open a sample file or launch tutorials, or things about doing profile menus, things like that. So this is I use this a lot of times when clients are like wanting to talk about a certain PDF or whatever. I come here and just say open sample PDF to do some testing, because it's just right there. It's quick and easy. So
That's one of my favorites to show off to.
mm-hmm. Actually, I had some fun with this one. Is I actually redrew this in Revit, this PDF. So
Nobody
I have a data
fun
set
drawing things
showing.
in Revit, Kyle.
Yeah, I remember Kyle's like, "Hey, I'm making a new data set from the Bluebeam drawings." It's like, yes,
Yep.
Kyle.
So gives me
Very cool.
some things about printing and Revit stuff. So I also use this for showing to be able to create spaces and review, and when I export it out and things like that. So
That's pretty cool.
where can you get the right here? Actually, if you hit help, welcome to review. So even if I have that closed out,
F12.
and you got this, oh, hey, I didn't. Good eye. I didn't notice that. F12. There we go. All right. The review desktop shortcut. If you want your desktop shortcut right there. However, if you're like me, if you look at my desktop here, I got nothing.
How do you do that? That's amazing.
I just have my recycle bin. So
how clean that desktop is.
yeah, I actually
do a lot of demos.
I actually do have files off of my other screen, but it's only 3. So
So I need to take some notes from you, Kyle, and fix my screen over here.
I put everything on my external hard drive, and I have shortcuts to my external hard drive from my desktop. So. I like David Clark. Clean desktops are beautiful. So, and then there is the stapler desktop shortcut. That's if you wanted to pop up the stapler, which otherwise, if you don't, it's in the menus. If I could spell correctly, I haven't typed it in forever, so it doesn't even know it's there.
Right.
So
the Bluebeam stapler.
Yeah. So all apps. Bluebeam, and then there's the Bluebeam stapler. So that allows you to where you can open up and convert things to PDF or combine files, things like that. So
very handy tool.
And then here, this one for the language is nice in the regards right here. You just simply say operating system, which then detects whatever language your operating system is, and that's what it installs. Or you can specify a particular language.
There's a lot of languages that the software comes in. It's pretty unique. You could really mess with somebody.
If someone knew this, I could deploy this to a coworker. He speaks Spanish, so I can speak it over there and do that. So
And then the preferences path. So here's one that we've talked about a lot, and we've gone into depth about what all is hiding in those preferences. But when you're looking at rolling out company standards, here you go.
And
Yes.
Where is that export? I'm assuming Kyle was about to go there.
Yes. So the thing about this is that it says when Revu Preferences path is when you click on here, it's asking you to pick a file. However, if you don't have one, we have to make one. So what you do is basically what IT we recommend for IT to do, or whoever's the admin is, to install Revu on at least one computer, just as it is. Then you come into the Revu and you start making those changes that you want. So up here in the top, when we go to Revu, there is Preferences. And then you can come in here and start customizing all these settings. So the options, under the options, we got the theme. If you want a dark theme or a light theme, the tab truncations. Here, this is one where Michael was talking about earlier, open PDF on default. So open PDF on startup. So this is where you can have it browse to a company standard. When it opens up, it opens as PDF always. But then there's also the other settings of reopened files from the last session, the home page, the recent files and startup, all this. And so you can come in here and tweak all of these settings in here. Then at the very bottom is where you can export that XML that it was looking for. I don't remember if I already have one in here. I do not. So let's go ahead and, oops. Export one. So I'm going to save it into my deployment folder, but I could put it in here too. So let's save that. So now when I come back to my configuration, there it is. So I'm going to specify that preference. So that means that whenever this gets installed, it's going to take that preference, it's going to put it on that user's computer, and then they will have the exact same preferences that I specified.
Oh, one of the big parts in that preferences is the name, right? So you can change it from KD MVP or Kyle Davis or Kyle Davis Esquire. Does that name come over with the preferences too? Or does that still allow you to change it for everybody?
This is basically just the file name. It doesn't change anything within the preferences. It's just like a Word document that you can change the name to whatever you choose. It's just as long as it's the XML and it has, when inside the XML has all the settings that you've specified. So this can be whatever name you want. But when you're in Revu and you go to preferences, you'll have no idea what it says in here. So. Okay. And then there is the other stuff in here of default paper sizes, default page size, which for some reason I only have one in here. And I will admit I had a support issue earlier and I wiped out quite a bit of my paper sizes. So I'm gonna have to get those back.
I was gonna say, we just dealt with one recently, you and I, Kyle, we were talking about printer sizes and page sizes. In terms of Revu, will only let you print sizes to your printer, which, by the way, strongly suggest using digital copies. But if you are going to print an actual hard copy, Revu will only let you print whatever size the printer. So it's on the printer driver is what allows you to print the size that you want, not Revu. Revu doesn't say or limit you. It's just whatever it limits you to whatever the driver limits.
Correct. Yeah. So when you're in the print dialog and you go to drop down the paper size, you're going to see all the paper sizes only available to that printer. If there are paper sizes that it doesn't support, somehow that printer had extra paper sizes. So, all right. And then other settings, the job options folder is where you have you want to export and you have your jobs. And then the net config path, the same thing as before, the preferences that where are you going to set your net config, which is then we're going to grab some other stuff. So let me go back into Revu, and under Revu Preferences, under the admin tab, there is the net config. And it's basically these settings in here of where's your email templates, where's your stamps, things like that of just saying, go grab this information from here. So.
Like there's a comment when creating the deployment and you set the net config path, but if you update the version, it seems to change that net config. So maybe that's something that gets overwritten if you manually do an update. So that would be a option where you just do another deployment when those updates come around.
Or
reset them.
export the settings here too and re-import them back in.
Yeah,
Send like a location for it.
Yeah, if there's an issue with an update and it seems to change the net config paths, definitely submit us a support case, and I want to look. We can look into that one. I've not heard about an update changing the net config paths. So if that is happening, we would like to see it, and then if it have to go over to Bluebeam to update it, we can get that over to them.
Yeah, and I wonder if it's because you did say new version. So if it is not just an update and it's a complete new version, like 19 to 20, that is a complete new MSI package. So that would update it.
That could be the case. We have seen it with multiple software. If you're jumping versions, even Autodesk software sometimes will do that. Oh, he did say from 2.60 to 2.70. Okay. Yeah, so if that's the scenario, I'd say submit a case to support@atgusa.com and provide details of exactly the steps you're doing, and we can look into that one and see if we can reproduce it and get it over to Bluebeam. Okay.
Okay.
And then let's go ahead and next to the next one. And then this is where you can come in here and enable other features, and such as the administrator. And the administrator is basically, there's two ways to get there. One, if you go into the review tab, there is administrator, and it's going to open up this dialog here where you can then come in here and specify your plugins. You can specify your net configs, your printers, and then your AutoCAD page sizes. So this is where you can come in here and specify those. So when I was in here earlier, this is where I was working with Michael. I accidentally did something here and it cleared out every single one of these paper sizes. So I had to come in here and get them back. Like, oops. So that's the administrator, but also in the preferences. This is, I think it was in Review 19 as well, that when you clicked on Review Preferences, there is also an admin tab here. Now this one only has some other stuff in here, like open the default programs, the explore log folders, the reset, backup and restore, the net config. But the Bluebeam Administrator tool has all these other stuff. One of the big ones is the plugins. And then you can come in here and check that.
So we've got a question here from Hector. Are preferences the same as profiles? So they're not exactly the same, but they're not the same.
Yes. So preferences are where review looks for everything, regardless of what profile, whereas the profile is saying what display elements do you want to see. So what tool chest you want to see, what ribbon tabs, what panels, all that is controlled by the profile, where the preferences say where to look for elements, like your stamps, your email templates. And that is, everything, not every profile basically will have those same settings for preferences. So. Okay.
Digital signatures.
Yeah, digital signatures. If you have that turned on, you can create digital signatures or manage them. So under the signatures area, you would be able to see all signatures, create signed documents and things like that. If you turn it off, you won't get this option here to be able to use digital signatures.
Remember, digital signatures are essentially forms. So if you're creating signatures in a standard or a CAD version and you need to manipulate them, you might have some tricky times.
Yes. And then the product updates, which is disabled from the help menu. So when you click on the help menu, there is the check for updates. It's kind of weird they have this in 2 locations, because remember, if I go back to one of the previous tabs, there was the in-app update. But if I go to here, this is product updates, but this is from the help menu. So you could say check from updates, but you could also have it where it doesn't pop up automatically, but you still have the ability to say check for updates. So you give it kind of a 2 thing there. And then the redactions, this is only for the extreme people. So if you're installing just standard and CAD things, you can turn that off, and then you won't even get that feature to be able to do redactions.
And redactions is creating a highlighted area that's blacking out. So you mark redaction and then you execute on the redaction. So marking the redaction just shows you where you're going to place redactions, and then you execute the redactions when you're ready.
Correct.
I had no idea redactions was an extreme only function.
Yes.
Okay. Well, it's always
Hey,
makes me
something
happy
new
when
every
I
day,
learn.
right, Jason?
Well, you never told me, Michael.
Okay, boys.
My fault.
So the next one here is registered license. This is not the same as that one over here, where it's the delayed authentication. What this one is that under the review menu, you will have the ability to register or unregister the license. So when you click up here on review, I have this option of unregister or register if I had it not registered. And that option allows that to be disabled. So the user can't go in there and click unregister, or they can't click register. They would only be by the admin, basically. And then self-sign certificates. This one, I believe this is the Windows certificates. So when you install the software, it puts in, like for the plugins, when you open up Revit, it's going to say, hey, I found this add-in, do you want to always load it? If you uncheck this, basically Revit's going to pop up and give you that message saying, hey, I found this, do you want to load it? If you say self-sign, it signs that certificate. So when you open up in Revit, it's going to not even ask. Revit's just going to accept it because it's been signed.
Mm-hmm.
And this is good for those that you don't want to get that message every single time. I've got a couple cases where they, hey, they get this up and they have to say load or always load. And then the translate markups. This one I actually don't know too much about, but based on the thing is, I believe it would be able to translate markups to something else, maybe from a different language. I don't know if y'all have run into that one.
Anybody in the chat know this one? I thought it was for importing and exporting markups from the markups list. Translate from one PDF to another, but
that could be it too.
Who knows?
But I'm gonna have to look that up, actually. Do my my diligence of support of figuring out what that really means.
Right.
Because when I say translate markups, I don't think of translate from one to PDF to another. I always call it just export.
Right.
Export markups. So
I'm on the Googles right now. I'll figure it out.
Okay. So while he's doing that, let's look to next here. And then the next one is the plugins. So this is where you can come in here and enable these particular plugins for these applications. So you can see here all the AutoCADs and Revits and Office products. The one I found pretty funny here, AutoCAD LT, because it does let you install a plugin there, but yet you can't install plugins to AutoCAD LT. So I always thought that was interesting. So, but this, I think PDF writers are slightly different in the regards they're a printer too. So LT so lets it support, but it doesn't have a Revit LT one. So.
So you can totally translate your markups from one language to another.
Okay.
It will only do the markups. It won't do PDF content, but it's actually in the document menu. You can go from English to way more languages than you can actually install the software in. I've never even clicked on this. This is so cool. So you can translate
Yeah.
Right here.
into all types of things.
See,
Yeah,
I
so
learned something new today.
What he did here is if you would click document and you go down to translate markups, you get the ability to do that. And as Doug just mentioned, powered by Google.
Look at that.
So I can come in here and let's say I want to translate to, let's go to Spanish. And so now I have the ability to look in here, all these markups, and you can get the translate into that language. Now, I'm actually going to cancel it because I don't know how long that's actually going to take. So, but
That's
there
really
you go.
cool, though. Oh, so Doug had a set in Cantonese once. So yeah, I mean, that would be fun to play with, and it adds to the, global accessibility too,
Mhm.
right? Cool. We should play with that sometime.
There we go. See, we're always learning something new here at the Morning Coffee Review.
I know. Or to mess with coworkers, even better, David.
Yes. All right. So again, these are just a plugin. Now, again, these are only available in CAD and Extreme versions. So if you have standard, you won't have the plugins available. So
Interesting that the LT is on there.
yes, I was wondering that too in the regards of AutoCAD LT. Now, Revit LT is not listed here, and I still think that one because Revit LT never supported third-party plugins. AutoCAD LT was also supposed to never support plugins, but according to this, you can put it in there. So I don't have AutoCAD LT installed, but I do have a license for it. I want to test that out because I've never had AutoCAD LT be able to accept add-ins. So if Bluebeam can do it, cool.
Yeah, because
and it could be that they got a special exemption in the regards that it's a PDF writer, things like that. So.
Well, and AutoCAD doesn't go into the add-ins. Remember, it just goes to options. So maybe that's why.
Yeah. So there. I think we're an output tab. I think is what it is in AutoCAD for Bluebeam is output. Okay. So next over, and then you have the
Output,
deployment folder. So this is where back from the original location, you can for some reason now you can change it later. So 2 locations. Then there is the skip pending reboots. This is if the installer detects a pending reboot, enable this option to skip it. So basically, in Windows, there's a lot of times like if you install updates, Windows updates, and you haven't rebooted yet, those are still pending updates. So Windows says, hey, I need to do something. So sometimes it prevents an installer from continuing because it already has these other things. So this lets it skip it, install it, and then you need to reboot afterward to not only take care of your other updates, but also the review to finish too. And then the other big one, silent install. Do I want to see a dialog box and it gives me all these buttons that I got to next, or just do it? So silent install is the option just to say, go ahead and install it. You still get a dialog box, but it just shows you a progress bar. So it shows you what's going on versus it pop up and you have to say next a couple of times.
Yeah, this is where you can do that two-tone thing where you're going to skip the reboot for somebody. You're going to silent install it on their computer as well. So next time you open, right, you close down for the day. Next time you open when you're ready to start your day, it'll all be ready for you to go.
Correct. Yep.
We see David would recommend against that. Which one, David? Is that the skip the pending reboot or the silent install? The reboot.
I actually kind of am agreeing with David in the regards of Windows is weird with installs sometimes that if there are pending updates, we recommend those be done first before installing any software. Even Revit, Autodesk software, Bluebeam, anything. Windows updates pending, take care of those first.
This is the devil. I agree 100%.
So then the last thing here is just to simply click create. And this will run through and it will grab all those settings and it will create the file for here. So when I click on this, it actually is going through right here. It says, here's my deployment. And then here's the script that it's creating. So if I wanted to, I could copy this out into somewhere, and it will, if I wanted to do it myself besides just an MSI, but this just gives me basically what it's going to do. It says start, and then it says wait for the executable, and then it's going to say here's the MSI that I'm looking for. It's going to do quiet. It's going to do all of this.
And by the way, you used to have to, before this deployment package came out, do this manually. So this is a
Yes.
lot easier. This has everything done for you. So if you're one of those folks that hasn't done any script lines for deployment packages, this is the best way to go about doing that. So you don't have to worry about messing a 0 or a 1 up, because we've all been there before, and it will preset everything for you.
Yeah, when I first got into Bluebeam software and looking in the support side and doing the stuff, we had to do a course of going in and editing the MSI. So we had to have a tool that let us edit the MSI and change all the keys in there to put, here's the serial number, here's the product key, here's where I want plugins. And just as you stated, you could easily miss, oops, should have put a 1 here and I put a 0 and didn't see it. So, and then you have to go back through and do it again. So
Make life easier on IT. Ooh, so Michael's suggesting it writes the script out. You just need to change the file extension to a BAT to make it a batch file.
Right there. So when I hit done, it took me to that folder, and then there's the file right there. And it's just simply, by default, it creates it as just a text file. But if I double click on it, all it's going to do is open Notepad. So just as Michael said there, if I right click on this and say rename, I just need to change this to a .bat file and say yes to convert it. And then now I can use that as my install. If I double click on it, it's going to start executing that command. Or you can put this in a deployment software. I can say SCCM or PDQ or any other deployment software, as long as they support your BAT files. You can just say, point here, grab this file, go. And that's it. There shouldn't be too many other editings because this editor already did it for me.
And we're not done yet, because all we set up there was preferences. Most folks are probably wondering, because we know more of the front end of Bluebeam Review, which is profiles. What about tool sets? What about all of those other items like line styles? How do we add those, Kyle?
Yes, so let's go back to the configurator, and we now have other options in here, such as deploy extensions. So here with the deploy extensions, we can push out custom profiles, tool sets, and more. I'd like to think it should be like a commercial here. Wait, there's more.
And that's not all.
So here is where you can specify what other things that you want to deploy, such as profiles. So here I can say add, and then I can specify my BPX file. So I can navigate to where I have that saved on the server or wherever it is, and I could put that in there. And then I could specify as many as I want, and then over here I can say which one is defaulted. So hey, by default, make this one the primary, and the other ones are just in there available to use, but they're not the default. And as up here, only one profile could be default. Never heard the ability to make multiple profiles defaults in any software. But if you're not doing deployments or profiles, but even if you are, if I go next, now I can go to specify tool sets, hatch patterns, and line styles. So again, I can come in here and hit the plus sign, and I can browse to my tool sets, hatch patterns, and line styles. And you do have to hit the drop down here and select which one you're trying to browse to, because they are different extensions, BTX, BHX, and BLX. So you have to do that, and it's not in here just like a one that says, just hit all 3 of those. So you have to just make sure you're specifying which one there.
Ooh, can you? All right, two good comments at the same time. If you export your tool sets in your profile, then add tool sets in the deployment, will you get them in there twice?
If you export your tool sets in your
I don't.
No, it wouldn't get them in there twice. It would append. It would take the tool chest, I believe, of the last executed task, and I believe the last executed task is here. So I believe it does profile first and then the tool sets. I don't know if it does I believe it's the order of, again, profile, then here. So if you had the tool chest in your profile, then you did your tool chest, it wouldn't put them twice. Oh, it has put them in there twice for you. That was more of a statement than a question. Interesting.
Yeah, I didn't think it would do that, but I
Yeah, 'cause
suppose I have had
typically-
duplicates.
I was gonna say, because typically it will ask you to overwrite or not overwrite when adding the same one in.
And it could be a bug in the deployment that it's going to do it twice versus me. If I manually double click on a tools test, if it knows it's there, it's just going to replace it with what I have. But the deployment, maybe it's built slightly different where it is putting there twice. So in those scenarios, I mean, I can get that over to Bluebeam if I can reproduce. I can get that to Bluebeam and say, hey, this doesn't work this way. Maybe we can change that feature. But as for now, don't add your tool chest in the deployment if it's in your profile. So.
Yep, because automatically it'll come with your profile, as
Correct.
well as all of your other items too, as long as you're selecting the attached dependencies. So be aware of that.
Yes. So if you export your profile, when he was talking about, yeah, if I go to the profiles and I manage these, it's that checkbox right there of include dependencies. So if that is checked and I export it, the tool sets that are associated with it will get exported as well. If you didn't export those, then that would be in the deployment here where you can specify those as a separate line item to install.
So, okay, two other questions one from David. Can you have it prompt to select a profile when it's launched? So like when Bluebeam launch, when you open up Revu in the morning, have it prompt what profile you want to start with?
I've not heard
never
of any
seen
kind of setting like that. I know just in here, this is what make default. I've never looked into having one be like, it pops up and say which profile you want to use. I don't even know if it could be done in the shortcut as well, like AutoCAD. I know you can.
Yeah, I was just
in the
thinking
shortcut
that.
you can do that, but I don't think Revu has that feature. But definitely, I can look into something like that, because if I go to the properties of this, let's see, go to properties. Yeah, all this does is just execute the Revu exe. So it doesn't have any kind of switch in there. So that would be a good question. I could definitely look into that one. I don't know it. So.
Okay, another question. What happens if you update a tool set? So if you've already done your deployment and you update a tool set after the deployment, can you run this thing just to give everybody the new tools that have been set up in a tool set?
That's a good question.
You could run it as a patch if you wanted, but
yeah,
I think the best way would probably be just to send it out, to be honest.
Yeah, that typically when I see that too is usually just send them the file format, and then they double click on it and it imports it and overwrites their profile and or tool sets.
Ooh, that'd be a decent trick. You could have when we were talking earlier about having Revu open to a default PDF, have like your company dashboard that would have your new tool set right there to update.
That is true. You could attach a PDF. Oops, sorry, Michael.
No, you're good. Yeah, you can attach a PDF, and you could create a digital dashboard in Studio Projects, and then Projects is going to be your live location of where you add things, and it links directly to that location.
Yeah, and in that PDF, whatever you can edit it in the regards of saying tool chest updated on this date. Click this to update yours, and so the users can click on that link, pop up their new tool sets, and import it. So that's
really
a
easy
good topic
for folks who have iPads too.
Yeah, and here's the question about statuses. So there is currently no exportable way for custom statuses unless it's in the profile. So you'd have to update the entire profile. So yes, statuses come with the profile as long as you have said save to profile, because by default it saves to the PDF. And we found this out too. I always thought that you could set a profile and it would save it so you can add it in a session, but it's actually just the PDF that saves those custom statuses in order for you to get them into a studio session so everyone has the same one.
It's a little tricky, and we covered that in a episode not too long ago. So check our YouTube playlist. It should all be named thanks to our amazing marketing team and DJ CJ.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So, all right, then here, if I haven't done much here, but this is where you're just going to specify that the profile folder or the location default or designate new profile directory. If you turn this off, it's going to keep whatever was there and import the profile there, or if you turn it on, it's going to specify a designated new profile directory. And then silent import, so it's going to import those elements silently. So let's specify my folder here again, even though again I haven't done anything, and then I just say create. And then so now it's going to have that other deployment here of just simply custom assets. So now you can have the configuration editor and then there's the custom assets. So this could be done separately. You don't have to be done at the same time. You could do these one at a time. So I can say, hey, install Revu, and a little bit later I can then say, push these assets now. So I can go in there and update that and do it.
That'd be the same thing. You could turn that into a batch file, put it in your PDQ or whatever acronym you threw in there for deployment software, and then everybody's up to date.
Yeah, and I believe I could also come in here and just take this line item also. Oh yeah, again, I didn't do anything. This is just blank because I didn't specify any profiles or line types. So this is all the code is, but I could come in here and add this to this extension as well. So
easier. Well, we've got just a couple minutes left. Are there any questions out there on YouTube or any other general questions for Kyle while we can take advantage of his support brain on the line today? Oh, so question from Hector, where is the Revu configuration editor? So that's a software that needs to be downloaded from the website. And I'll put that chat back into, I'll put that link in the chat there, Hector. So you can download that installer that Kyle was walking through today.
Yep. And also with that all being said here too, is that there is under that link, there is the ability to download it, but it also has very detailed instructions on how to do it. The system requirements, the administrator guide running through the configurator, the enterprise deployment package. And I believe when I go to this, it's basically the same thing. So
Michael has a question about are we going to talk about the batch uninstall file? Is there a particular question you have in regarding the uninstall file? This would be the question.
Yeah, so are you talking about the uninstall of previous versions or uninstall of just the whatever Revu is installed already? Previous version. Okay, yes. So I thought that might be where you're going, but I wanted to clarify. So under the MSI package, I can't remember. Now I got to bring up the configuration editor. I don't recall.
Typically, it's embedded in the traditional MSI file.
Correct. Yeah. Let's see. Oops. Let's update this one because I want to look at my setting because I thought there was a setting in mind that had said something about it. Hey, where's my package? Okay. All right. Oh, here is the uninstall previous version. And let's see. Yeah, so right here, there is this came with the download here of basically here's the script that can be run. And I don't remember, you can just convert that to a BAT file, but I don't recall where I can put that in the configuration editor to specify that. But this could be done in you can run that and then run the other MSI install as well. So that it uninstalls the previous version.
Yeah, I thought the MSI the traditional MSI executable file asks and points to that first, doesn't it? So in the script, it says it goes to the uninstall text file to run the uninstall before it installs.
Oh, in here?
So in the traditional,
where's my?
Yeah, the 64-bit inside the executable traditionally points to that text file to uninstall first and then runs the install. That's usually what happens. And that's because when you first install Revu, it asks you, do you want to run side by side or not? And when you say no, it then points to that uninstall file and then uninstalls the older version.
Yeah, and now I may have gone in here a little too quick, because I actually did want to say that there was something in here that you could specify whether to do that or not. And I may have just missed it. So I'm just going to put that on my desk now. Let's see.
Gentlemen, we are over time today, but as we wrap up here, this goes back to where we started, that end of life. And if you are looking at the new version of Revu that's coming out this July, or if you're looking at, getting all of your stuff up to date from 17 or 18 or 19, because those products are being, set off to the sunset. Hopefully this conversation today with Kyle was beneficial to help get your wheels turning. And if your IT folks are struggling, send them a link to this video. Let them know how we can help. And of course, if you are an ATG customer, you can certainly reach out to our support team, AKA Kyle and, Omar and all those other guys and gals and help, make this process easier.
Definitely.
I agree. Well, thanks everyone. And thanks for joining me out here in the wilderness where I'm at. And we look forward to seeing you all next week. I'll be in the office and I'll have my plants back, even though this is a wonderful view. Thanks, Kyle, for joining us as well. And thank you, DJ CJ, as always. And look forward to seeing everyone next week.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.